So, welcome to Cusco in Peru. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. It's completely touristy, but it does it in the right way. It's a beautiful Spanish tiled with native Incan influences, and I think that it's one of the most picturesque places that you can visit. The streets here are outstanding. The cobblestone, the locals, the backdrop of the mountains, and it is flooded with tourists and wonderful little things like cat cafes. But I gotta say, as far as a vacation place goes, it just warms the heart. It is easy to love Cusco. It is cheap. The food is fantastic. And if you can get past the extremely low percentage of oxygen in the air because you're 11,000 feet up in the sky, you can really enjoy it. Also, there's a lot of bars, and alcohol here gets you really drunk because, again, there's no oxygen. I mean, this is where Four Loko ended up, apparently, so you know it's good, you know it's quality. The food, Piedra and Sal is my favorite restaurant. It's located in this little hotel. If you're going to eat alpaca, this is the place to do it. The choclo, everything here is fantastic, and the nightlife is also banging. As far as hotels, I like the Rumiponku. This is a beautiful little hotel, wood-trimmed adobo style with little fountains. I think it is perfectly positioned in the city, and it does a really good job of kind of creating that ambiance that you want. You know, a throwback to earlier years with little details and even, purified water to fill your cantina. Also, the earliest check-in and latest check-out I've ever seen in a hotel, which is Chef Kiss. Taking a quick cab ride to the Alpaca Expeditions headquarters, I get to see everyone packing up early in the morning. They load up the car, and then before you know it, you're off. And it's a 4-hour journey to get to the trailhead where we're going to hike in to Choquequirao. It's really hard to say. Anyway, what it is that it's this beautiful Incan city that you have to hike to. There's no other way to get to in the Apurimac Valley and River, and it offers you a look into the Incan civilization that is completely different than Machu Picchu. This is a place of complete nature that is untouched, just backpackers. Here you see our guide, Victor, who set up a beautiful little breakfast with some traditional breads with cocoa, some fresh fruits, which are delicious, and obviously coca leaves and coca powder. You need the energy. You need the energy because this is a very long hike. It's extremely strenuous. And even though it says on the website that it's challenging, and for those that enjoy hiking and are in relatively moderate shape, they do have emergency donkeys that do get used from time to time because, let me tell you, it is an insane amount of altitude and walking. Once you're on the trail, though, you are just overwhelmed with how, absolutely beautiful this place is. You're inside the clouds. The valley is deep and profound, and everywhere you look is just raw nature. There are no people, just miles and miles of trails with a beautiful green aquamarine river down below. You can see signs of other people having come through, notching their presence. And the trails are, for the most part, pretty well maintained. Some parts are a little more rocky. You do have these outposts that sell chicha. That's a fermented beer. You can see by the red flag. There's Spanish moss everywhere. Maybe there's a little bit of danger, a little tarantula action, but they don't really bother you. They're just big spiders. This is really the magic moment of reaching the first base camp. We have walked now 6.5 miles and descended 4,000 feet to the Choquequirao and slept there overnight. You can see a few other backpackers here set up their tents, and they do have little huts, a little restaurant, a place for the donkeys to refuel themselves and rest. And I think they offer some of the best views for any restaurant in the world. Again, we had a really nice dinner that our team set up for us, fresh fish, rice, giant choclo corn, and of course potatoes, because they have 300 varieties here in Peru, and you're not really in Peru unless you're eating potatoes. The views, though, are what really fill you up. We descended down to the river valley, to find this amazing bridge that was questionable, but added to the adventure. This is kind of the midway point between the two peaks that you're traversing. Definitely the coolest part of the journey, temperature-wise. The river is fresh, the water's cold. Temperatures can get way up there, especially in the sun. We were lucky enough to have overcast skies for most of the time, which, to be honest with you, if it was sunny out, I don't know how anyone could do it. I did get sunstroke the third day in, and thank God for that emergency donkey, because I was not making it up these hills. The second night, we have transversed 10 miles with an 11,000 foot altitude change to sleep in a little town called Marapata. Town, I say, it's really just a section of buildings with some farms. Extremely windy up there, but also super, super beautiful. The sky just lights up with all these different colors, and there's just something magical about this place. And the only thing I kept wondering is, how did any civilization build anything up here? Lift these giant stones and decide that this is where they're going to live. It is absolutely near impossible to get to, and you feel the weather, you feel the nature, and it's just all around you. There's no escaping it whatsoever. So we have a nice meal. Again, amazing foods, fritters, boiled eggs, potatoes, chicken, some pasta dish, even a flambe. Look at these guys. They're really working it out for us, which is amazing. The food, is so necessary because the last day of your hike, it is only 1,000 feet altitude adjustment, but it is another good 6 miles round trip, and you're going to need that energy. You are now deep within the Sanchupta area, and this is where you're going to start to see the ruins. There are these mile markers that kind of tick down along the way, but really they just kind of annoy you after a while because you're like, when am I going to get there? Soon you are literally walking on the edge of the earth. You're a good 10,000 feet up in the sky now. The air is extremely thin. The clouds roll in, and you start to see signs of Incan ruins. And this is Pikiwasi. It is the first settlement that you come to. It basically is the runner's house, the messenger's house. This guy would run between cities, if you can believe it, like early marathon days. And you get to climb through this into what is the main plaza, or the King's Plaza. And to fully understand how remote this is, you have to see from the sky. It is just carved out of the mountain. It is massive, and there is no one up there. It is just you and your team, which is really what makes it extremely special, because you feel like you've discovered it on your own. It is perfectly preserved. This area was the last bastion for the Incan Empire. This was kind of like where they made their last stand in the 15th century, 16th century. Considering that it was only discovered in 1909, it is pretty much perfectly preserved, and gives you a good, profound idea of what the civilization was all about, and is extremely special because it is just all yours. There's no one to share it with. Coming back down is a bit of a trek, crossing over the river and then back up the other side. We stopped for lunch at another little kind of rest hut. Cute little bottle cap, decorations above, and another fantastic meal of lomo saltado. They also had a little shop where they had these interesting little Pepsi Oreos. Never saw them in the United States, and we're really excited to try them. It's the little things. It's the simple little things that make you wonder, what are you doing on top of a mountain eating Oreo cookies and flying drones with dogs? What kind of a life is this? After this little break, we continued on to our journey. The sun was out full blast, and this was easily the hardest day. You're drinking liters and liters of water, and it's just unrelenting distance and height to get through. But eventually, you reach the top, And now you're back in the clouds at our starting point. This is Capulioc, and it's kind of out in this little peninsula that sticks off into the valley. They have these little A-frame houses that you can stay in, or tents, and they have a full bar with Inca tequila. We had a little drink together with our porters, laughed it up, spent most of the night just kind of over a bottle of rum, and enjoyed the last views of this amazing valley. I have been to Peru before, and to the Sacred Valley, and I've seen Machu Picchu, but this was a very unique way to see this amazing country. I felt very connected to the world. I felt more connected to the ancient past, having to walk through it, much like they would have to. And the journey itself, nearly 35 miles with also 20,000 feet of altitude change, you feel it, and you feel accomplished at the end of it, especially when you enter into this beautiful world of an Incan empire where it's just all yours. And it's one of the few places on Earth where you don't feel like a tourist. You feel like an explorer. So, thank you, Alpaca Expeditions. Thank you, Get Lost Magazine. This was a tremendous trip that will stay close to my heart for many years to come.